Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for Monday, the 16th day of August, 2021. Well, I started this already and it froze about 7 minutes in, so if this does this again, I'm going to reboot the computer. I've already done that once. But I've already taken the runes, and so I'm just going to show you what those are. If this is your first time here, welcome. Sometimes this happens and I have to start over. Sometimes if I get all the way toward the end and I've pretty much done the reading and it freezes, then I'll just go ahead and do another one for the end and hook them together. And, you know, I'll say something when that happens because you'll notice. Because it's like it'll like freeze a little bit and then start again, you know, it's something completely different, and it's that obvious. So I haven't developed the art of smoothing it yet. I just know how to hook them together and make them one file. So I don't know. I think that's pretty great because I've been doing this for a while, and that's the first time I did that. Right now I've had to do it a couple of times, and it works still. But anyway, we have Othala for today's rune from the Elder Futhark. It is basically Kenaz in all directions. We see Ingus at the top, the seed or the sudden release of energy, and we see Gebo at the bottom, which is balanced energy exchange. But in effect, it's all Kenaz, which looks like this, the greater than sign. So that's really what we're looking at is awakening and illumination and spirit presence and all of that. Othala is about the Akashic record. It's about the collective consciousness. In astral form. In physical form, we would think of it as ancestry, inheritance, legacy, protection, family. But again, it is illuminating all of that, the inner and outer aspects of self, right? And making us understand that we are all one energy in this collective consciousness and this collectively consciousness-based expression into physical form. You know, things look the way they do by agreement. And physicists know what I mean by that. It's an agreement, basically. And it's the agreement we make in non-physical, on the soul level, where at the same time, you know, we're deciding what we're going to do when we get here, the overall theme of things and the focus we want to have, irrespective of what that looks like. It generally takes a service to self or service to others approach. From there, we define it from there. And then we begin to draw in those experiences so that we have that overall theme manifested into our lives, whatever big deal we want to learn about while we're here and experience, and add to the collective awareness, add to the Othala experience of everyone. Now the Geomancy Rune today is Amisio, or loss of some kind, and its complement is acquisitio, which is gain, and now you can think of it financially, but you don't have to. This is one of the runes here in the Geomancy set that we think of in terms of increase and decrease. So you could think of the loss of conflict. You could think of the loss of, maybe you sell a car that you really like or whatever. You want to trade it off because you need a new car or something. Well, maybe you like it, so you feel a sense of loss, but you also experience you no longer have that car anymore. So that's a loss. But you see, it doesn't have to. It's not so firmly rooted in one thing or another. So just think decrease with Amisio, and I think it's easier to apply its message to everything. But here, if we're thinking loss of Othala, we have a lot of smoke out there today. It's just destroying my throat. And the PM reading is high, which is not good. The pollutants, the real fine particle stuff, that's really damaging. It was like in the 80s or something, yesterday or day before. I don't even know what it is this morning. But if you're thinking decrease or loss in terms of our legacy, the collective aspect of self, the collective aspect of all of us here, then what are we losing? Is it decrease of awareness? What is decreasing? Because if we're talking about legacy, if we're talking about protection, and we're talking about the collective aspect of self-inform, inheritance, everything, it's just everything. What are we losing there? Is this referring to the violent the outbreaks of violence? Like I know there was some violence down in Los Angeles. The breakdown of trust, the loss of trust that's involved in Othala. What are we losing? Or are we losing the barriers to that? Are more and more people awakening now to the understanding that there's more at stake than just some individual perception of something, especially if it's something that's going to ultimately harm other people? You know, again, whether it was the nonsense going on down there in LA this weekend with an anti-vax movement, a bunch of those militia people guys were down there, and there was a lot of there was a lot of video footage of it, and good Lord, same kind of nonsense going on in Portland and in Salem here in Oregon. Are we starting to see a turning point there where that's not going to be allowed to continue? Because it sure seems like the police just stand there, if they're even there at all. They don't do anything to stop someone. You have reporters being, female reporters being attacked, while the police just stand there and watch. It's like, what happened to the police? Well, I think we know the answer to that, so we don't need to belabor that today. But so the overall theme then for today's reading, though, is we're going to have to figure out, and hopefully the cards will tell us, give us a little more information about what about our collective aspect of self here. What about that whole Othala experience that we're having? What about that is changing? And will it be changing in a positive or negative way? Is the violence going to increase? You have the hospitals are becoming overrun again, some of them. Especially down in the South where the anti-vax stuff is so strong. And you've got governors of those states that are refusing to require masks and are trying. You got, Texas and Florida and all that. They want to punish areas that are doing it, that are trying to protect people. So now you have school boards and cities and all of that just, thumbing their nose and basically letting the governors of those states know, yeah, we're not going to listen to you. Do whatever you want. Remove our funding. We don't care. Do whatever you want. We're going to protect the children. Why aren't you? So I have to think that this is a little more positive with Amicio here today than what we think, right? That maybe this is not a negative. Maybe the problem people are being put in their place. And maybe the people are going to rise up and say, yeah, we're not doing what you want. The lives of our children are more important than that. Either we're going to keep our kids home, or more kids are going to wear masks in school. You're going to ventilate the buildings. You're going to do what it takes. You want them back in school, then you take care of our kids, right? We'll see. We'll see what the cards have to say, though. So let's take our first three cards, and those are the general influence cards. And then what I've been doing the last couple of months or so is taking a challenge card and then a benefit card, just to give us a little bit more information. Now, it doesn't mean that those are the outcome cards necessarily, although they could be. It's the outcome card seems to be the third card of the first three. That seems to be resonate probably the most as an outcome. But we'll see. It just depends on the reading. Well, here we have the Page of Swords. Now, swords is the air element, so intellect, reason, all of that. The pages are students. They're messengers. They're news bringers, particularly with this particular page. With a court card, you've got the page or the princess, the knight or the prince, and then you have the queen and the king. And they're basically talking about the different stages of life, from student to someone who's maybe just out of college or whatever. In other words, they've got their training and now they're going and doing things with it. And then you've got mom and dad, who are the king and queen. And so you're looking at different age groups and different life experience and all of that, different positions in life. But with this, you're talking someone who's a risk taker, intelligent, vigilant, maybe diplomatic, can also, though, be petty. That's one of the downsides of swords, or rather the air element, not swords. Well, yeah, swords. But here you see birds up in the sky. You see clouds either gathering or dissipating, but it kind of looks more, as billowy as they are, I bet they're gathering. So is there a gathering storm he's talking about? I mean, what is this? And what is that? Is it all of the conspiracy people? You know, like, because that's what was causing the difficulty this weekend down in LA at the anti-vax thing, right? So they were the ones causing that. And these are people that believe in all of the conspiracy stuff, all right? And again, you know, I don't even know what to say about that. But, you know, is the storm gathering? He's looking behind him. The wind is blowing. You can see his hair right there. The clouds are they're blowing this way, actually. So if I'm looking at this dead on, then the clouds are moving, well, yeah, the wind is pushing them this way. The ground seems to be unstable under his feet. You can see the wind is blowing the tree this way. So everything's going, I got to go this way, no, this way, well, everything's backwards here. So this way. I would not make it as a weather girl. Okay, I couldn't do that. I don't know how they do that. I mean, the skill it must take to be able to not only be able to talk about the weather, obviously they're educated into that, but to be able to negotiate those screens. How do they do that? I can't do it here, as you see. After all this time, and I've been doing these videos for how many years now, and I still can't do the the mirror image stuff, or whatever you want to call that. But anyway, you can see that there's movement here. So there's a message of something coming in. He's looking behind and leaning into the wind, or not into the wind, but with the wind, basically going with the wind. But he's looking behind just to make sure he knows what's coming. Well, this could be what's coming with the virus, especially if we're talking Othala and Amicia, or if we just simply look at Amicio in terms of decrease of something, decreased impact on our collective aspect of self, on our tradition, on our legacy, on our inheritance, on our, on our family, the collective family. Maybe the power dynamic is shifting. What about that? So you're going to need to observe that over the next few days. Is the power dynamic shifting? Because you're seeing lawsuits being filed in these states where the governors don't seem to care if people live or die. So that's what it looks like. That's what it sounds like. So what is this message? What is this new direction? We're going to take a risk. We're going to stand up. We're going to be vigilant in our expression. And we're going to say no more. So the decrease of the nonsense that's harming people to protect the legacy we leave. And what's that? Our kids. Let's see what the next one is. Well, we have the Nine of Wands. Now, this is an interesting card. I think we had the Nine of Wands last week. Let me look. Yeah, we had that on Thursday of last week. Now, the thing about the Nine of Wands, you can look at this in terms of support. The battle's over, but he's here and they're there. And you see the line of demarcation there. We've talked about that before. I happen to think, I interpret it because I think it means this is then, that was now, or this is now, that, whatever, right? You're talking about two different things, and something has happened to separate out those two events, okay? The Ten of Cups, where it's the family, are they dancing and the house is in the distance? You see one of those there. So they've done something that's made their family successful enough that now they can buy a house. Okay, so they're you see what I'm saying? There's two different events within the card. Anytime you see two different things going on, anytime you see that line. You have eight swords behind, or eight swords, eight wands, or eight staffs behind him. He's bandaged. He's wounded. So whatever the battle of wills was, whatever that battle was, it's over. But he's looking back with more of a furtive glance, like, do I really have support? 9 is endings and completion. So clearly something's over. But we also need to understand the bigger picture here. Is this an uneasy truce? I've never understood why we can't get on the same page about our kids. I've never understood parents that don't seem to truly connect with being parents. And don't seem to, and make something all about their own ego instead of worrying about their children. Believing the lie that the COVID virus doesn't affect children. Well, you got a lot of kids in the hospital right now. So tell me how that doesn't happen. I used to see parents with their kids. None of their kids had masks on in the grocery stores. None of them. And then all of a sudden you'd see a dad with 3 kids with him. Everyone's in a mask. Or a mom. I saw one mom, it looked like she had a kid that was under a year old. She even had that baby in a mask. Was leaving it alone. I'm sure that, they made a game of it at home. And, maybe she has to move it up all the time while she's in the store. But by golly, she had one on the kid. Can you imagine being lied to by the President of the United States about this not harming children? Can you imagine that the President of the United States would do that to this country? New expression of will. Creativity. The spark of life. The Ace of Wands. With the aces in the Rider-Waite, you always have a hand reaching out from the clouds, holding something. Either it's going to be, well, it doesn't really matter. But what it's going to be, it doesn't really matter. We'll talk about this one. The Ace of Wands, again, is the fire element in our will. It's creativity. It's the spark of life, birth of creative expression, birth, passion, power, energy. So now that we know what's coming, maybe an uneasy truce is possible so that we can take command of the situation and protect our children and our legacy. Maybe we'll see the loss of or the decrease of the effect of these insane governors that don't seem interested, and I don't get it. Okay, I don't get this. Supposedly it's the guy, the DeSantis in Florida wants everybody to take Regeneron. Get the virus. Take Regeneron, but you don't have to get vaccinated. We don't want you masking up. We're not gonna mask up in the schools. Well, the schools are. I think Broward County just told him to pound sand. And again, is that what we're talking about here with Othala and Amicio? We're going to lose too much, folks, if we don't protect what we have. And realistically, we can lose the trappings. We cannot lose our children. We cannot lose our grandchildren due to stupidity. We listened to Senator Rand Paul talk about his about how it's just oppression to you, or whatever he says about wearing masks. Don't have to wear masks. Not wearing masks. Don't have to get vaccinated. I believe he wasn't he? Didn't we see a picture of him getting his vaccination? They pulled him off YouTube for a week for talking about this crap. Then we find out that his wife buys stock in Remdesivir, the company Gilead, who created Remdesivir. You know, in another lifetime, we would not be so cynical as to think the two are connected. Here's the thing: if you make money off of the pandemic, do you want people to take the vaccine? Do you want people to socially distance? Do you want them to be, or do you want to make the money off of the whole thing? Because if they're going to do all that, you aren't going to make any money, are you? So if that's not how he feels, he needs to get out there right now and convince people of it. Because that's how people are viewing this. Articles are being written. I mean, this is not good. So if that's not how he feels, he needs to get out ahead of it and say so. And he needs to be honest. He needs to convince people of his honesty, which he may have trouble doing. Again, our legacy is our children. What's coming? Is the what's coming what's going to happen to them, or is the what's coming what's going to happen to the people that are trying to live in the conspiracy or the greed world? Because our parents going to rise up and say no more. Yeah, I got a funny feeling that's what's going to happen here. Because I think people are sick of this, and I think that they're so worried with school starting now, because it doesn't start here where we are until September, but it's starting in other areas of the country. And the minute they get there, they have to. Everyone's getting sick, and not just one or two, hundreds. Having to quarantine again, having to stay home again, all because they didn't do it right, and maybe they couldn't do it at all, but they were too stupid to figure that out. Because they're all living in denial. Those that are actually the powers that be in this. They're all living in denial. But that's all at the expense of our children, is it not? So I don't know. But the Ace of Wands seems to indicate we're going to turn a corner in terms of how we're going to look at this and what we're going to do about it. So again, that's why oftentimes in these readings, this last card here, this third card is going to indicate what the outcome is. But let's take a look at what the challenge card is. We'll take the 13th one for randomness sake. Here we have the Nine of Cups. We see a very happy fellow. He's not crossing his arms because he's defensive, but look at me is what he's really saying. I'm happy. You see all of his chalices lined up behind him on a platform of some kind that's got a nice blue drape over it. Blues and oranges are the color for water. But we'll forgive them for putting gold. Well, you have the hat. That's more orangey red there. Water element is our emotions. It's the it's and that represents, and cups is represented by the water element. So here we have a very happy fellow. Something has come to an end where he's managed to get very, very happy about it. Now, the downside of this is complacency. Okay? Too happy, too secure, too serene emotionally. Nothing to get you out and invoke something else, right? So the challenge to all of this, taking care of our legacy and removing the obstacles to that, is to not become complacent. You know, we are just reinstituting the mask requirement here. It happened on Friday. And because Delta's here and it's increasing, and this is a problem. And we never stopped wearing masks, but you know, a lot of other people did. So now it's all got to go back to the same. We got to Walmart on Friday night, and they were closing in 6 minutes. They were closing at 8 o'clock, and we didn't realize that. We got there just 6 minutes before 8. They let us all in, and we could finish our shopping, which we did really quickly and got out of there so they could, you know, clean the store, because that's what they have to do. Plus, they don't have anybody working there now. I don't know if that's due to COVID or what it is, but they don't have anybody working there now. And so you see all this stuff out in the aisles, all the stock that needs to be put up, and they don't have enough people. So I don't know, you know, but at least Walmart here in our area, as opposed to all the other stores, we don't shop any other place. Well, that and the grocery outlet we do there. But Walmart seems to, everybody in there seems to be masked up for the most part. It's very rare that you see anybody during the mask mandate before where they weren't. And that's the only store here that does this. The rest of them can't seem to get it together. And so we no longer shop in any of those stores. We just don't. It's not safe. But you see, and my husband, the second this happened, when they dropped the mask mandate, when they relaxed everything, first thing out of his mouth is, oh, that's not going to work. What if we got to go back into it? Nobody's going to be able to do that. They're going to resent it. No one's going to cooperate. Well, we're going to go to the store today. We're going to see how many people are cooperating. But I would think in Walmart they're going to, because they've been doing it. Even when and I mean the number of people that still wore masks in there, I mean, you had a fair number. We weren't the only ones. And then, you know, you hear about how people get into it. Well, there's one store in town. They'll get in your face about it and try to ridicule you for it or give you a weird look or whatever. That doesn't happen there. You know, so it's like, you know, what experience do you want to have? Now, so this was the challenge card with the 9 of Cups. So the benefit card, though, is the 3 of Cups. Synthesis, unity, success, achieving something together, emotional security. What do you think? Let's see if I left anything out. It's a celebration, mind, body, spirit, balance, triple goddess, triple aspects. We win. Parents can calm down because they know that their governors actually care whether or not their kids live or die. And they're willing to move heaven and earth to either say, you know what, we can't come together in schools right now. We just can't. We don't have any way to keep these kids safe. We can't do the air exchanges we need in the classrooms to keep everything moving. We don't even know if that's going to work. Maybe they've accepted the fact that, you know what, this is bigger than what we can handle, so we need to do distance learning for a while longer. But they're going to make the right decisions so that people are protected instead of left hanging out to dry. So maybe now that more kids are getting sick, you know, a ridiculous catalyst for this Shameful catalyst for this. But maybe we're going to see a decrease of the BS and an increase of the collective awareness and the protection of our children. I mean, I can't even believe we have to discuss this, frankly. I mean, do you? Can you believe this? That this could happen in this country? Well, yeah, evidently. But again, we had a president who was Mr. Conspiracy and needed everybody, as many people as possible anyway, to believe that garbage to keep him in power, which of course didn't work. You see, that's the thing. When you seek to deceive, when you seek to harm, when you seek to do all this crap, it might work for you for a little while, but eventually it's just going to blow up in your face. People are going to be on to you. They're not going to let you get away with it anymore. And maybe that's what we're talking about here with Othala and Amicio. Maybe protection of our legacy, of our children, is a little more important than some stupid governor who still wants to kowtow to the last guy. Or are they trying to make money off of this? I tweeted to DeSantis on Friday. I said, so what, you got money in on, are you making money off of Regeneron? What's going on here? Why aren't you just telling people to mask up and get vaccinations? Why aren't you just doing the right thing? But instead it's fine. Here, go ahead and take this medicine. Is he making money off of it? What's going on here? You see, nothing's clear with these people. And there always seems to be some ulterior motive that we ultimately find out about. So what? Let's just find that out now, so that our children don't get harmed. Right? Because in the end, the benefit is this. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just tired of it all. I'm just exhausted from it. And we went into a grocery store on Saturday, one that we were still going in now and then. We didn't for a while because their staff wasn't masking up, nothing. And they didn't seem to enforce anything. And then all of a sudden they started to. I think when the state decided they were going to start fining companies. I know Lowe's here locally got fined $35,000 for that crap. I don't know I know you get a time where you can actually protest the whole thing. But I don't know. I doubt they probably still had to pay it. I don't know. We went in there though, and everybody walking in the store was masked up. The people we saw in there initially were masked up, but then we were checked out by someone who wasn't. And we started to go down an aisle where one guy was, the other guy wasn't, that works there. And the other guy that wasn't was coughing. It's like... So I said to my husband, let's go. I needed the stuff in the cart, so off we went. Because we couldn't, I didn't feel like shopping at Walmart when we had to go, they were closing, the night before. So we just got the chicken food and out we went. And so we were just going to stop in there and get the rest, right? Well, we didn't. We got some stuff, but I got to go back today to Walmart. So anyway, it's just one of those moments where it's like I give up. So I just told him, I says, last time I'm coming in here, guys. Sorry. I'm not doing this again. They're just looking at me like, my husband's just shaking his head. It's like, here we go again. We all got to get it together. We got to get through this. If we do it together, if we stay on the same page, that will happen. If we don't, we're going to be in this mess forever. So face it. And in the end, we have this, don't we? And we protect our legacy, our children. That's enough. This whole thing is just freaking me out about the kids. I've got grandchildren and I'm just totally freaked out about it. My son may have to have surgery on his arm and I don't even know. He's their dad and I'm just like, oh my God. So, but see, his arm isn't working. His hand is numb. It has no use of it. It happened just the other day. So they think he's got some kind of ulnar thing maybe happening in his elbow and they need to go in and do something to it. So I don't know. We'll see. We know Wednesday. So this is the wrong time for this. It just is. So anyway, stay safe, everybody. Mask up. Get your vaccination if you haven't. Take one for the team. And be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.